Now on Inside California Politics, the Olympic gold medalist and reality star turned candidate for governor.
I'm in it for all the people.
Answers tough questions about her campaign.
Is this a cash grab scheme and a publicity stunt?
And she explains her positions on the issues.
There would be no increase in taxes whatsoever.
Plus, inside gubernatorial candidate John Cox's controversial plan to cut the state's homeless in half.
Broadcasting across the Golden State, this is Inside California Politics.
Thanks for joining us for Inside California Politics. I'm Frank Buckley in Los Angeles.
And I'm Nikki Lorenzo in Sacramento. The date for the recall election of Governor Gavin Newsom is now set. This week, Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis declared the special election will be held Tuesday, September 14th.
Among the candidates hoping to take Governor Newsom's job is Caitlyn Jenner. This self-described political outsider and former Olympic athlete has never held office before, but she insists she's the right person for the job. I sat down with Caitlyn Jenner for a wide-ranging discussion. It's an exclusive Inside California Politics interview that's getting attention for some of the things that Jenner said.
Let me ask you about the state budget. This week, California's legislature sent the 2021 state budget to Governor Newsom. They've agreed on a framework for the budget. What aspects of it do you agree with? What would you have rejected in this budget?
Well, first of all, when it comes to the budget, I have had meetings on the budget, and that would more be determined. I mean, it's a very large budget, $260 million.
But is there anything in it that jumps out at you that you say, no, I don't agree with that?
My number one focus is two things. To massive taxation. Obviously, as governor, I cannot just say, oh, we're going to lower taxes. That's a process that you have to go through. And over regulations. Right now, we have 21.2 million words of regulations on the books, okay, that you and me and businesses have to follow, okay? If you read 300 words a minute, worked a 40-hour work week, it would take you 3 years. It's 12 times bigger than the Bible, okay? And number one thing that's killing the state is taxes and regulations. That would be my focus.
But there's nothing in the budget that you objected to that was just put out this week?
Yes. I saw it quickly. I have not gone into it deeply, just kind of overview looked at it. But the bigger problem is regulations.
But you're running to be the governor of a state of 40 million people, the world's fifth largest economy, and you're saying that you haven't looked in detail at the budget?
I have been working so hard. I started this campaign about 2 months ago, and I haven't stopped working, going around talking to people. What we need to do is we need to take a fresh look at everything, at our budgets, at our regulations, at our tax process. I'm for, it seems like over the last 20, 30 years, we've been run by the Democrats. They've pretty much been in control. A few minor exceptions, but pretty much been in control. And it shows you what a one-party system can do. California, it seems like anytime anybody goes to Sacramento, whatever legislator, they think their job is just make more taxes, to make more regulations. That's their job. That's why I came here, you know? You know what? I want to go to Sacramento to have less regulations. I want lower taxes, okay? I don't want all of these things. I would go in and there would be no increase in taxes whatsoever, okay? That's the only thing I can do. I can veto stuff. I can veto regulations. I would put together a committee to go through every regulations that we have in this state because they're killing us. Evaluate every regulation, see if it's worth it or not, get rid of it.
But you haven't done that yourself yet.
I have had meetings on that, but I haven't personally, yes, gone through
but
every
you're the one running for governor.
I'm not going to sit there for 3 years and read all the regulations. I had a meeting the other day on labor regulations, and the book in 2021 was 3,000 pages long of small print, okay? He also had 1956. It was 47 pages long. You can kind of see where we're coming, okay? This is a massive thing. What I would do, in 1973, when I drove here in my 1963 VW Bug and everything I owned in the back seat, okay? And I drove into California because I wanted to go to the Golden State. I can remember when I came to the sign, "Welcome to California." I was like so excited. I went to San Jose, and reason I went there is because there were great athletes that lived there. And so for the next 3.5 years, I trained with some of the greatest athletes in the world. Went out, won the gold, brought it back to the United States. I was the first one to put the American flag up. I brought it back to San Jose. So proud of that. Now, I'm on a different mission. I've run a lot of races and I know how to win. This time I want to go to Sacramento, okay? And I want to do the exact same thing. I've talked with all of these people and I've worked with them on all of the regulations and the budget and this and that. I'm certainly not today going to make any decisions on that, but I want to work with the right people. I want to surround myself with the right people because we need solutions for California. And I want to be able to find those solutions, put the right people in place. We have to turn this state around. If we don't turn the state around, honestly, we're not going to have a state any longer.
Let me ask you about the most recent public polling. People may or may not like Caitlyn Jenner personally, but your candidacy is not taking off. The most recent public polling shows 6% of voters supporting you. You've made contradictory statements on whether or not you even voted in 2020. You've had no detailed policy proposals on how you would solve the issues of our state. People say you're not serious. Here's what Politico said about you. Quote, "Her utter absence of electoral experience, her rocky contradictory interviews, her flimsy policy platform, and the inauspicious polling in paltry single digits, despite her sky-high name ID, they deem her putative candidacy a cross between a cash grab scheme and a publicity stunt." Is this a cash grab scheme and a publicity stunt?
I am extraordinarily serious about what I'm doing. I love this state. I don't want to see it go under. I want to be an example for everybody that, you know what, no matter who you are, no matter what you've been through in your life, if you don't like what's going on, stand up, fight. And that's exactly what I'm doing. If you don't like what's happening at your school board and what's happening in your school, run for the school board. Get in a position where you can make changes, okay? If you don't like what's happening in your town, run for the city council, run for mayor, okay? I want to be that example. And that's one of the main reasons that I'm doing this. I'm standing up. My grandfather was in the dead pile in World War I, and they pulled him out because they heard him moan. And, you know, he went on to live a good life. My dad stood up during World War II. When he was 19 years old, World War II was breaking out. He wanted to fight. He joined the 5th Ranger Battalion. First boats on Omaha Beach. 364 guys in his division, and only 60 came back alive. In honor of my father, because if he could see what was going on, in not only just this state, but in this country right now, he stood up. Why can't I stand up? And well, so that's what I'm doing. I'm standing up.
Standing up is one thing. And just so I understand, are you standing up as an example, or are you standing up expecting to win the governorship?
I am expecting to do very well, and I would love to win this thing. I would love to be given the opportunity to make a change. Actually, when I first thought about this, one of the first phone calls, because I had been approached by people to do this in the Republican Party. One of my first phone calls was to Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's a friend since 1975. And I called him up and I said, "Arnold, I'm talking to these people. What do you think?" And he was actually very complimentary and said, you know, it wasn't easy. Campaigning, he said, was the fun part. He goes, you go out and meeting the people and this and that. Getting up there, it's tougher. But you can get some things done. And to be able to work with a lot of these people. He said, but overall, it was a very good experience. And so that was kind of on the positive side. And I still had not made up my mind. And then the final decision was 2 months ago, 3 months ago. I'm watching TV, and I'm watching what's happening at the border. And I'm looking at bad policies, horrible outcomes, people drowning, dying in there, coming across these kids in cages. It just shows you what bad policies can do.
Coming up, continuing my conversation with Caitlyn Jenner, the immigration policy changes she claims she would make if elected governor. During our one-on-one conversation, Caitlyn Jenner told me if she's elected governor, she'll enforce controlled immigration in California. I asked her for specifics on her plans.
As governor, I would finish the wall on state land where you can finish the wall. I think we need controlled immigration in this state.
What does that mean?
We need to know the people that are coming into this state. Actually, just, if you know, a couple of weeks ago, I think it's like 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court, 9-0, unanimous decision on the TAPS program, the Temporary Protected Status program. And if you come in under that, you're not eligible for citizenship. To be honest with you, I think that's a very good idea. If you get arrested in this state, you're gone. It's like the bad people out, but the good people. I have had so many good friends and people that I know that have entered this country years and years ago, okay? They're great citizens, great people, they've raised their family, but they don't have legal status here, okay?
And what should happen to them? Should they be
I
forced
would
to
want
leave?
to make sure that they stay. They're a vibrant part of our economy, they're a vibrant part of our culture. And yes, they would need to, I would do everything to fight that they can stay here in this state.
But isn't that a contradictory point of view to say we're going to accept people who are your friends who you've known for years?
They're not my friends.
Well,
These are everybody. I just mentioned that I've had personal contact and had an opportunity to talk.
But my
I'm not
point
talking
is not
about my friends.
And my point was not to suggest that they're your personal friends in that sense and that you're doing them a favor. I mean that people that are here, have been here, have contributed to society as you describe them. You want to grant them citizenship.
I would like to be able to, yes, they could seek legal status, yes.
These are people who are here undocumented.
In some cases they are, but they've been here for a long time and they're good people. They deserve the right to stay. And they've kind of proved themselves.
And you don't see a contradiction?
As far as citizenship, there's a difference between legal status and citizenship, as you know. Legal status, you can stay, you can get a green card, you can work here, you can pay your taxes, okay? But as far as citizenship, that's another process. What the Supreme Court said in the TAPS program, that if you're here illegally on the TAPS program, you have to exit the country and then return legally and do it the proper way. I want to be fair to the people, the millions of people who have come to this country legally. It's just not fair that it's, you know, you can just walk across the border and all of a sudden get legal status.
Coming up, reducing homelessness, how Caitlyn Jenner says she would solve the housing crisis if elected governor. Every candidate running for governor has a different plan when it comes to reducing homelessness in California. Caitlyn Jenner told me the housing crisis hit home for her on a recent trip to Venice Beach.
One of the biggest issues that we're facing in the state is the issue of homelessness, as you know. You've said you would want to remove the restrictions that are blocking developers, charities, and others in investing in building affordable housing. What specific restrictions are you referring to?
In CEQA, which is the California Environmental Quality Act, which started actually in 1970 with Ronald Reagan. He put it in. And it was about to protect the environment. I am all for a healthy environment, okay? I'm all for that. And you know what? We've done a pretty good job. When I moved back to Southern California back in the 70s, if you were on the 10 freeway looking up to the mountains in Pasadena, you couldn't even see the mountains. I don't know if you've been around that long.
I have.
Yes, and you couldn't see the mountains, right? And you could see the fog going, or the smog going back in there. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Okay, and there was, you know, environmental every day on the news, what the air quality was, and on and on and on. You know what? We've done a pretty good job. It's so much better. You can drive down the 10 and you can actually see the mountains now, and you don't see that black stuff in there.
A lot of people would say that's regulation that made that happen, by the way.
You know what? There are good regulations and there are not so good regulations. And so you have to evaluate those things, okay? And so I'm for all of a clean environment. But what has happened is the environmentalists over the last, that's 50 years, have piled more regulations on top of more regulations on top of more regulations to where today you can't build anymore. Look at we have the highest real estate prices in the country. It just went from $700,000 to $800,000 for a home. You know, a condo's like $500,000. You're coming out of college, you can't even afford rent here. Okay, it's ridiculously expensive. Why? Because we can't build. It takes so long. I would work to lessen the regulations on building, be able to work with private companies, because there's a lot of private companies that would love to build, you know, a McDonald's facility. I mean, you know, for affordable homes, affordable housing. I'd like to work with charitable groups. I was just recently down a couple of weeks ago at the a facility that they have downtown, and it was wonderful. But they have other buildings they want to be able to build at, and they can't do it because there's so many regulations. At the Salvation Army, at the Salvation Army down there, wonderful organization, does great groups. There's church groups that want to be able to assist. But I think on the other hand, just the other day I went to Venice Beach just to kind of see, got my bike, drove down there, rode my bike down. We have to clean those places up. We have to provide some place for those people to go, whether it's an open field out someplace, or if you've noticed at the Veterans Facility, there's these big open fields in a lot of places there. We have to be able to get them off there. It's just not fair. Venice Beach is destroyed.
So are you suggesting that those people would camp in some of these open fields?
So we're going to find someplace, if they're going to be camping, they can climb. They're destroying Venice Beach. They're destroying all the businesses down there. They don't need to be there. The crime rate is going up. There was just another murder, I think it was yesterday, another murder, and it's mostly homeless on homeless murders. We can't have that in our streets. We have to clean that up. But then also we have to provide, here's a place where you can go. Wherever it may be, we can find some open land. This is where you can pitch your tent, not right down there in the center. So the businesses can, you know, open up. People can go enjoy our wonderful Southern California, you know.
You can watch my full 30-minute conversation with Caitlyn Jenner online.
Coming up, gubernatorial candidate John Cox lays out a different plan to reduce homelessness in California, while he's traveling around the state with a pile of garbage to prove his point. This week, Republican gubernatorial candidate John Cox laid out a controversial plan he says will cut homelessness in half in 5 years. He joins us now to explain. John, it seems that every person that runs for political office here in California, whether it is city council, mayor, or the governor, says they have the plan to fix the homeless crisis in California. What is different about your plan that would fix it if you were elected governor?
Well, let me correct you on something, Nikki. You're just talking about politicians who are running for office, and they don't have a plan because they're not willing to make the tough decisions that have to be done. I'm a business guy. I'm not going to beat around the bush. We've got to get this thing solved. And there's 4 parts of my plan. The first one involves basically treatment. Treatment first, not housing. We also have to enforce the law. That's number 2. Number 3, we have to have accountability for the funding we're spending. We're wasting money left and right. And the 4th one, which is very important, which people shouldn't lose sight of, is that we've got to bring down the cost of building in this state, because we're not able to build affordable housing. That's just all there is to it. The costs are too high.
You seem to like visual aids as you're out on the campaign trail. First, you had the bear. Now you were touring the state with a giant ball of trash. Why are you doing this? Because you realize in some corners of the internet, on Twitter, on late night, you've kind of become a punchline. I mean, does that bother you?
I guess the pundits are going to do what they want to do, and you know, the people who follow politics every single day are saying, oh, gee, he doesn't have any substance. But as I showed with this homeless plan, and I'm going to have other plans that come out on taxes and cost of living and crime and fires and water and electricity and a whole bunch of things. I've got a whole bunch of ideas. But, you know, Nikki, not everybody follows politics like you and I do. I mean, they're living their lives. They're raising their children. Frankly, in California, they're often working 2 jobs and are really beaten down. What they need is a little bit of extra help. And so we're giving them demonstrative aids. The bear, so I'm known as the guy with the bear. That serves to let people know a little bit of, you know, who they're talking about here. And that was meant to demonstrate that we're going to have to be beastly about this. We're going to have to be tough with these interest groups that have dominated for so long that Gavin Newsom just lays down in front of. Most people are afraid to go into our cities these days because of the homeless situation. This has got to be addressed. We're the laughingstock of the country because our politicians are jawboning and they're not doing anything about it. I'm committed to fixing the problem, Nikki.
Fortunately, we're going to have to leave it there because we are out of time. Republican candidate for California governor, John Cox. Thanks for being back on Inside California Politics.
Thank you, Nikki. Great to be with you.
You can see more of our interviews online. Just head to your local station's website and click on Inside California Politics. Thanks for watching Inside California Politics.
We'll see you back here next week.